Okay, good evening, everybody. We're going to open the meeting of the Planning Board at 6:04 on, not May 1st, get rid of that, June 12th, 2017. We have a quorum and approval of the agenda. Anybody?
Make a motion to approve the agenda as written.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we have minutes. Catherine? These all ready to go? Okay, February 13th, February 16th, February 23rd, March 6th.
No, we gave you an updated staff report.
It's the 6th.
All right, I have the old one.
6th. Okay.
Hold on.
Yep.
I like my old one. I drew all over it. Okay, that would be February 16th, February 23rd, March 6th, March 31st, and May 30th. Does that sound right, Catherine? Somebody want to make a motion?
I'll make that motion. Approve.
Is there a second? Any further discussion? Any comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. We have A&Rs.
I'm recused on 8135 Boulevard in Clifford.
Okay, so Joe is recused from...
So you want to take the others?
Hold on, I'm recused from one of them myself. 8135. I'm recused from 8139, which is the last one. So let's take them quickly one at a time. 8133, the Cantrell family.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve 8133.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, 8134, Mark and Barbara White, 75 Pochick.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, there's been motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we have 8135, Town of Nantucket Boulevard in Clifford, with Joe Marklinger recused.
I'll make that motion to endorse.
Is there a second? Okay, the motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's 4 in favor, 1 abstention, recusal. 8136 On the Pond LLC, Marcia Kodalek, 4 and 6 Hannaby Lane.
Make that motion to endorse.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right, there's been motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Laura Iorio, 12 New Street. It should be New Lane, by the way. And Leslie, there was a question about the lots, or did we figure where this was?
Yeah, there's a typo. Lot A will contain approximately 4515 square feet, and Lot B will contain approximately 3410.
And it was New Lane, wasn't it? Given the
yes, it's
that
New
parcel
Lane.
number, not New Street.
I was going to say that I grew up there. I know that's not what I'm talking about. Is this town or Sconset, Holly? Looks like town.
I can't sit on this
Although
one.
I can't really tell.
I was all confused about the address. I can't sit on this, so...
Street's
Barry-
small, so it's got to be town. All right.
Okay, I am recused.
Duly noted.
And Barry is chairing.
Yep. So is there any other discussion on this issue on 8137? Hearing none, all those...
I'll make
have a
that. I'll
motion?
make the motion to endorse.
And do I hear a second? Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, 4-0 with Ms. Williams recused.
Thank you, Mr. Rector.
You are welcome.
8138, Town of Nantucket, Poplar and Cherry Street.
Motion to
Yeah.
approve?
Yeah.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and Barry, take
You're
this one
recusing.
over
Okay,
again.
so on
Yep.
8139 Hawthorne Park LLC, any questions? If not, I'll take a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Second.
Motion's not made and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, with Linda recusing himself on that.
Okey-doke. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Secondary dwellings. We have quite a few. Does anybody need to recuse from any of these? I have to recuse from the first one.
Which, the 5 bar stuff?
Yeah.
All right. So, do you mind?
Is this
No,
a ratification
All right,
now?
yeah, thank you. So on 5 Barstow, this is just to ratify the vote that was done previously at this point. I would accept a motion to ratify said vote unless there's a discussion.
I'll make that motion.
Do I hear a second?
A second.
Motion's made and seconded for discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, with Ms. Linda recusing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I would like to talk about Premier and the Well.
Which one's 3 Mariner Way?
You want to pull that?
Oh,
Joe?
we'll just
Or
go
we
the
wanna
rest
do-
of them.
You want to do one at a time, or what?
No, we can do 36 Wigwam, 11A Greglin, 5 Friendship, 20 Lovers, 4 Timo, 48A Skyline Drive.
And that's my motion to approve as per staff recommendations.
Great. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, this motion's been made and seconded to approve those. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Yep.
And now we've left with Norwell, New England Development, 3 Mariner Way.
On Mariner, the thing is, there's extensive wetlands in there. I know we're not, supposed to do the other boards, but their house placements is dependent on the wetlands line. So it would be nice. That's. Which one is this? Mariner Way?
Yep.
Also, I didn't like this one. Not stamped. It's kind of shoehorned in. But there's a subdivision plan. And there's 5, really tight offsets. The other one, yeah. Isn't this one that's low off Union Street? Yeah, wetlands over on that side. There it is. Oh, over there.
Madam Chairman?
Yeah.
Yes, there are wetlands over there. The subject, or the subdivision was subject to Conservation Commission review. There's extensive drainage for the subdivision that was worked out between the Planning Board's consulting engineer and the Conservation Commission as the subdivision was approved. So, I'm not entirely certain how this particular plan works with that, but Holly, I believe, did bring it to their attention. And, just to remind you, the Planning Board's reviewing the secondary dwellings for access to the site. So we can certainly make a note in the approval, but that's not really part of your review for these applications.
You need drainage on the site.
They put it at one point.
I mean, on the lot.
Well, they've got quite extensive drainage on the property.
We'll see what happens.
Well, so Leslie's saying,
Well, I understand what you're saying.
yeah, I mean, might not happen anyway. Okay.
Okay, so does anybody have any problem with our jurisdictional issue on the secondary dwelling? Okay. Somebody want to make a motion?
So you want to approve it? No, I'll make a motion to endorse Noel and New England Development, 3 Mariner Way.
No second for discussion.
Okay. And Joe, did you want to put a notation on our approval?
Yeah, I think we should,
Which is what?
check the house positions relative to the 1,500-foot wetland setback lines to make sure they're, in some kind of compliance.
We can't enforce that. It's not in our
No,
jurisdiction.
we can't enforce it.
It can be a
Heads
suggestion.
up.
We can certainly bring it to their attention in the approval letter. And we've done that before with other things
Okay.
that aren't entirely
I
within
just
your
don't want to make
jurisdiction.
it one of our conditions, because that'd be outside of our
Yeah, no, I
jurisdiction.
understand
Okay, is that something you guys want to add to your
Yes,
motion?
it's all fine.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. We have one lonely little tertiary dwelling on Gregland Avenue. Holly, was there anything remarkable about this? Okay. Somebody want to make a motion?
I'll take a motion to approve secondary dwelling for staff.
Tertiary.
Tertiary, sorry.
Yep.
Thank you.
We're
I'll
whipping
make-
right
I'll
on
second
by.
Yep.
Okay, any further discussion on that one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I'd like to recuse myself from the previous plans, 14 Mass Road.
Okay, we have a recusal. Mr. Trudell.
Yep.
Okay, is there,
I don't remember this.
Leslie, do you have anything on here?
No, the planning board previously approved a detached garage apartment for
Right.
this property. They went to the HDC and made some changes. Now it's attached to the primary dwelling. The parking and some other plans for the site changed. They all still meet your requirements, and we recommend approval.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve at this point with a revised letter to be signed by the chair.
Okay,
I'll
thank
second.
you. There's a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. We have Richmond Gray Point. Leslie, do you want to explain why that's back here? Just a request for an extension of the conditions?
They are requesting an extension to submit the final plans. Staff has been working with them. They've been working with our consulting engineer. It's just a lot of information to pull together. I believe they're asking for pretty much a 2-month extension, and we recommend approval.
Okay.
And I would so move at this point to accept the extensions.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And Barry, take over the next one, please.
Oh, sure. Okay. So next thing before us is 6115 Hawthorne Park. This is again a request for a deadline extension.
Make that motion to approve the extension.
Second that.
Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, and it's dismissal under recusing. Thank you.
Alrighty. Whipping round through this. We have public hearings. The Nantucket Trust has made a request at 130 Pleasant Street, has made a request for withdrawal. Does somebody want
Motion
make a
to accept the withdrawal without prejudice.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. And again, the Valero Road subdivision is continued. Do y'all want to have a little report from this one, since it's been over a year that we've been continuing this thing? Have you asked them for that?
We've asked them to actually resubmit if they're going to continue.
Okay, because this is nuts. Okay, great.
Madam Chairman, just on that, I do agree with you that we should ask them about what their intentions are moving forward. But they are subject to a zoning freeze, so they can't just resubmit and start over unless they give up their freeze.
Give up the freeze.
The board has in the past sort of prodded some applicants when they've been taking a while to make a decision. So we can call them and ask them to come to the next meeting.
We can prod them.
Sounds good.
Sounds good to me. Phillips have continued. There's some more details that we got to work out on that. To July 10th, and we now have Mark Cook, 37 Cato Lane. I understand there are probably a lot of people here that are abutters.
Yeah.
I'm recused from this one.
Okay, and we get to put an alternate in, Leslie?
No, this is a subdivision
This is-
modification.
Just a
Three to two?
modification.
Yeah.
So it's a simple majority vote.
Okay. Representing the applicant?
Good evening, Dan Malloy, Site Design Engineering for the applicant Mark Cook, with me as well as the caretaker Stephen Chin. So what you have, I'm not sure if anybody has had a chance to go out there and look at this yet. I know you have some pictures in front of you. What we're looking to do, the bottom right corner of the picture you'll see up there is a secondary dwelling. And you'll see the existing driveway at the bottom of the screen. We're looking to turn that, basically, if that was a clock, to the number 3, so it would come out on the right-hand side of Cato Lane, but right around the corner. Looking to reorient it basically with the front door of the house. Right now, the driveway is on the back of the house. A couple of separate issues here. So it's a modification of the subdivision. When the subdivision for Hiawassee was put in, 2 driveways existed, so it was recognized in the approval, which is why this is a subdivision, not a special permit. There's a couple of issues with the subdivision itself that's come up. One, we're here to relocate the driveway. Separately from that, issues have come up with the status of the subdivision, some of the roadway construction work. I just want to try to separate those 2 items. So we're working for the property owner, and the owner's looking to relocate their driveway, and separate from that, there's issues with the developer who actually put in the road, who has infrastructure left to finish. So if anybody has questions now, we can certainly make note. Ed Pesci has sent in a new letter on some of his comments and issues outstanding out there, but that's not why we're here. Just to be clear, we're trying to be separate from the remaining issues with the road. In terms of the driveway, like I said, there's already 2 driveways. There's been some comments in from some abutters across the street from Cato that are in the Washman Ave area. One of them would be directly across the street, and one is at the corner of Washman and Cato. The abutter across the street has issued complaints or concerns regarding headlight glare coming into their property. If anybody's had a chance to go out there, if you look at the pictures, I think you'll see 2 pictures. One is looking straight from the center of the house across the street, and that'll either show you, if you can see it, the fence across the street, or it'll show you nothing but vegetation. So there is substantial screening across the street right now. The first picture is seeing on top So yeah, so the picture you have on top of your pile there, that's coming around the corner from Cato Lane, and you're seeing the roof line and the roof of the actual house in the bottom right corner of the screen. So the only chance of that house that has the issue with the headlight glare is actually coming from our existing driveway, not the new driveway. So across the street, you have at least 5 to 6 feet of thick vegetation across from where the driveway would like to put it, and then there's a 6-foot privacy fence behind the vegetation as well. So we're really not seeing how we're not going to have a lot of headlight glare into their backyard. That's really all this is, a modification to move a driveway.
Okay. Board members?
No.
Oh, you're out. Don't look at your direction.
Yeah,
Go for it.
I don't know really what to say except I don't have a little red pointer. So, Dan, when you mentioned the glare for the existing driveway, you mean when the car backs out,
And comes
it
around the
turns
corner.
right. Nobody's
there.
going the other way. You can't go the other way.
Correct.
That technically is, the lights have to go on the neighbor's house for that moment it's turning onto Cato to go towards.
Right, when you
Yeah.
turn that corner, that's the only actual
Yeah.
opening of the vegetation is when you
Now-
make that corner.
The only thing, I'm just, not trying to make any problems, so no one else is saying anything, I might as well say something. If they make that driveway where you're saying, for them not to have glare, they're gonna back out. Now, you know how we are about turning around? I mean, I see people backing out into Surfside Road all the time, it drives me crazy, Cliff Road, crazy. Obviously, backing out into Cato, there's nothing, because there's no traffic. But what I'm saying is, there's not gonna be any glare if they back out.
Right, if
If
they
they
back
back
out.
in,
right.
there would be a lot of glare because their lights would be shining on right into the neighbor's yard unless they turn the lights off, which is hard to do with today's new cars. They seem to come on no matter what. So when I'm just making that one point, but I don't see any difference in anything. I mean,
I was
this
out there
place
this
is-
afternoon.
How long is that secondary dwelling? That's probably before we had secondary dwellings. It's probably
Believe-
been there a long time.
Early 70s,
Yeah.
I believe.
That's what I kinda
on the
thought.
plan.
I mean, we're just sort of formalizing an existing a second curb cut that's allowed with a second dwelling, right?
Right, the second curb cut was there, the curb cut was formalized and acknowledged when the subdivision was put in.
It was acknowledged, like
And
approved, Leslie, like because they probably never had a permit in 1970.
It
I mean, nobody
predates
did that.
it predates 1998,
Yeah.
and the
We
curb
didn't
cut
have
thing
all
came
that
in
stuff.
1998.
That's what I was trying to ask that without actually saying it. You know, I know what you mean. When we formalized it with the subdivision, that it was legal second curb cut, even though it's not much of a curb cut. It's technically legal now. Okay.
Correct.
It's grandfather
Yeah. That's what I mean.
because it predated
Formalized the original-
1998.
Yeah. Okay. So all they're really doing, forget everything else, they're just asking to move it.
We're essentially putting the driveway where the front door is. Right now it's in the backyard.
Yes.
That's really what we're doing, is putting it where the front door of the house is. That's where the access to the house is.
Well, I would say this is a public hearing. That's what I'd
Yep.
say.
Barry, John, any
I have
comments?
I'm waiting to see if there's public.
Yeah, I'm sure there is.
And we are, as part of that, I believe we are modifying, that's correct, the driveway on the subdivision road is being widened as well. That has to be contained within the current driveway regulations.
Yeah.
So although it'll be widened, it still has to meet the dimensional requirements.
Okay. Mr. Borchert? You don't have your little red
I would
pointy.
say, can we put this here where it is, move this pool over a little bit, and keep the driveway here, and eliminate this, keep the driveway here for 4 cars, move the pool over a little, that's all I'm saying. Do it that way.
It's physically possible. The owners, the way they want to use the property, they'd like to put it around the corner on Cato. That's certainly physically possible. It's not what they're looking to do.
The only reason I'm saying is just to solve the issue of the parking driveway adjacent across the street from Nossaqua. That's all I'm saying.
Right. I was out there this afternoon.
It's just a suggestion.
Right.
I did a site review of this. I went out there a couple weeks ago, and it's just a proposal.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have a comment? David? Stephen? Okay. This is a public hearing, and I know there's some neighbors here, so anybody would like to speak, please come down to the microphone. Or are we just watching? Okay. My comments about it, I think it's an overly large parking area for a very small structure right off of Cato Lane. And that is what's concerning me. Maybe not moving the driveway so much as the huge size of the parking area, which is something atypical for that area, and it's actually bigger than the cottage it's adjacent to. So that's why I was having a little concern about it when I went out there. We can't so much take into consideration headlights. I mean, that's a problem all over the island, so we can't get into headlight glare on other houses. But I am concerned about the sheer size of this parking area, which overwhelms that entire streetscape. So that's just my comments. I would tend to agree with Carl that if we're going to increase the amount of parking, that the driveway stays where it is, which is only about 100 feet around the corner, and put the 4 spaces up there. Or make this one a lot smaller.
Madam Chair,
Carl?
do we have authority to upgrade that section of Cato Lane from Hiawassee down around the corner to the existing driveway?
That would be a Leslie question.
Staff?
Okay. Through you, Madam Chair, the original subdivision did require that part of the road to be upgraded, and a subsequent modification removed that requirement and just, instead of pavement, allowed it to be gravelled. And there are some outstanding issues, as Dan mentioned, related to the subdivision. That's not really the responsibility of this particular applicant, and the planning board is holding money in a performance security account to ensure that those outstanding items are completed. Mm-hmm. And if I may, I'd just like to remind you all what the finding is that you have to make. So the finding is that the driveway does not have a significant and adverse effect on the scenic or historic integrity of the neighborhood, and that the separate access is not contrary to sound traffic or safety considerations. So that's what you need to be focused on.
Board members? Comments over there? Or are we still thinking?
If I could just offer one thing, if visual in terms of the parking or the driveway itself is a concern, we will be doing screening.
Okay.
So I can certainly tell you it'll be screened, or if you're inclined, it can be conditioned to be screened. The whole property will be redeveloped. The houses are being reconstructed, refinished. The landscaping will be redone on the property. So certainly we could screen the sides of this thing so you don't even see the driveway. In terms of the spaces, it's hard to say what's there today, where it's just a big dirt driveway in the back. There's at least 3 spaces in the back right now. Could be 4, could be 2. Kind of varies. Mm-hmm. But certainly we can screen it if visual is an impact.
But in truth of fact, point of fact, you can screen it, but the screening has to be low. Otherwise, we get into the sound, traffic, and safety on a visibility issue. So it's not going to be very high screening at the Cato Lane entrance.
Right. Well, if the concern is seeing parked cars or a driveway, all you need is low shrubs, 3 to 4 feet high, just to basically screen it, so you might see the rooftop of a car, and that's it.
Barry?
Go ahead now. Go ahead.
Dan, I don't mean to, are we moving the houses, or are we just fixing them?
Houses are just being cleaned up and
Okay.
not being moved.
And the pool is going where the cars are now? Kind of.
Correct.
In
No,
that
well,
back
next to
behind
it.
there.
Part of it is where the driveway is now,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. Well, at least the pool's away from everybody else. We hear about the noise from that too, so it's complicated. That, Leslie, can I just ask you something? I know that
Yes.
I remember that conversation about the not paving.
Mhm.
That was back when we didn't want to pave anything. Neighbors were mad. Nobody wanted to fix it, so we went along with it.
That
I don't
was,
see any improvement. Nothing's ever going to happen past this house.
and
Right.
I think that may have been the conversation at the
I'm
time.
talking about future now because of that land bank purchase. Isn't
Right.
that
Yep.
the
So
reason?
the modification happened in 2008,
Yeah.
and I, believe that the thought was that there probably wouldn't be a lot of development beyond
Yeah.
this.
We were talking about
And-
that back then.
Right.
So the applicant at the time made a contribution, a significant one, to a bike path instead of making those roadway improvements.
Okay, this is important, all this little stuff, because it's part of, like, this isn't gonna be, a highway for everybody. I don't know how many of you are abutters or across the street. So we have to look at that. I mean, if this was an area that was gonna get fixed, we have to look at it differently than we do now. This is sort of, I don't wanna say dead end, but it isn't gonna be heavily traveled because of the different things that have happened in between the other side of Cato and this side. And there was talk about opening it up 15 years ago. I mean, Dan, I don't know. I mean, I don't see anything wrong with it. It's just one of those little areas that's just been that way since we were in Woods Hole. You know what I'm saying? And all of a sudden there's something going on, but there was nothing going on the other side of the road when this was probably the first house down there.
I think it
One
was.
of the originals.
Right.
And now all of a sudden this is getting fixed and everybody, getting nervous. I understand that. We've run into this before, but it isn't that common that we run into something like this. So it isn't just a simple, oh wow, this is nothing. This is, I can understand how people are concerned. But at the same time, this piece of property has been sitting like this for a long, long time. So, I think we gotta see what the public has to say.
Nobody wanted to.
Oh, nobody wanted to say anything?
You've
I thought
already-
we'd have an army.
No. You've
All right.
The public hearing has been open for a bit. No one's
John?
come forward.
Dan, do the trees in the picture represent the proportional width in the trees in the upper left-hand corner? Or is there, are they drawn in to be, what is the width?
The width of,
Looking
so
out.
what you're looking at right there is you're turning from, Holly, can you go back up to the,
It's 15 feet. It's
Aerial
an opening
photo.
of 15 feet, the new one.
okay. Okay, so the picture you're looking at now is coming from the bottom of the, if you come out of the existing driveway and go up Cato Lane right at the corner, that's the picture you're looking at in your hands right now. So
Okay.
what you're seeing is the roof in the bottom right corner of the screen is the actual one you're seeing. You're asking for the width of the driveway, the new one?
Yes.
Yeah,
That's
well,
what
they're
I-
asking for 15 feet.
Okay.
15
With the
coming in.
proper vegetation, as you're saying, on either side, I don't have a problem with it. And
It
I
would be
think
screened,
as,
yes.
as large as it looks from Linda's comment, I think at some times when at some point when there aren't 4 cars in the driveway, it's going to prove to be a benefit for an ease to back out and then pull out, even the course of the day, not necessarily blinding
It
somebody
will have
with the
space for
lights.
4 cars. Whether there'll realistically ever be 4 cars
Yeah.
there, I don't know. But the main driveway for the main house at the top of the screen is actually fairly small,
Mhm.
which is part of the reason this one's bigger.
Okay, I'm okay with it. I was hoping that there'd be some public comment.
Let's back that truck up for a second. The entrance may be only 15 feet wide, but the parking area from top to bottom is over 60 feet long.
You're having 2 cars with backup space in between.
They have to have the space in between. I don't know if it can be tightened up some, but I'm going back to the expansion of the other. Leslie, the maximum width of a driveway is 22 feet?
It is
20
20 feet.
Yeah,
This is way over 20 feet.
Right, it's 20 feet. I'm not sure where that markup came from, but they have to comply with zoning, which is 20 feet. We're not asking for any relief on driveway widths whatsoever.
Because it's way over 20.
Yeah, that is definitely not happening. So we didn't ask. That'd be a special. We're not special permit. We're not looking for any relief on driveway widths.
So
you're
if you,
talking about where the cars are parked, not the entrance.
On Hiawassee.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. So any new driveways have to conform to zoning requirements for widths. That will be required.
I don't know. I'm just overwhelmed by the whole scope of it.
I see what you're talking about. You're talking about the other street.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
So that was a problem over there.
Yeah, but that's
Not on the aerial, it's not.
100 years ago.
That aerial is not over 20 feet.
No, if the board's inclined to improve this, I would suggest a simple condition that any widths have to comply, any aprons have to comply with zoning, which
Yeah.
they would have to anyways, but certainly to clarify that.
Okay. And that architect doesn't live here. Carl?
I'm just glad we're having a conversation about this. I think one of the threads is the impact on the neighborhood and of moving the driveway from the back to the front on Cato, and the effects it would have on the neighbors across the street in Nassaquisset. And I read the letters today, and I'm sensitive to that, and I'm personally speaking here. And I'm sensitive to the concerns of the neighbors across the street, and I think that it's worth looking at keeping the driveway where it is, but if it doesn't work out that way, perhaps reducing the size of that to somehow have less of an impact in the neighborhood. And as a member, I'm sensitive to neighborhoods. So I'm glad we're having this conversation.
That does take me back to that language, which I'm well familiar with, in the parking statute about adverse scenic impact and traffic safety, sound traffic safety. It's humongous for a little cottage that it's sitting next to. I don't know how many people. I think that was one of the things that the neighbors were concerned about as this property kept going through people that wanted to buy it over and over and over again. There was a dormitory, there was this, there was that. These are remaining single-family dwellings, correct?
Correct. They're both single family. The intended use is for the owner and the family. It's not a dormitory or anything else. It's single family.
The neighborhood has been agitated for some time now because the sale was predicated on getting certain permission, and they've just been a little concerned about this property, not knowing what's going to happen to it. So when the large parking lot appeared over there with a small cottage, I think that gave rise to some question about what the use of the property was going to be. So we just want to clear that up, that these are two single-family dwellings. It's not a dorm. It's not attached to any restaurant or anything else.
That's completely my understanding as well.
Okay. Well, what's your plan? We can't ignore it because it's every time anything goes in there to try to buy it, we hear about it at the office. So.
Yeah.
It seems like nobody's ready to make a decision.
Well,
So we'll have to.
the other driveway doesn't have to be continued. I mean, that's going to be part of it. That's a condition, right?
The width of it.
That's what I'm talking about. The other house.
I mean, the access moving it over here, if there's a concern, access and safety is certainly better than what it is now. This section of Cato is a better section of road. It's better maintained.
Yeah.
From a purely access standpoint, it's better over here.
Well, I think what would
Screening.
make me happier is to see a screening plan, but also reduced to 2 spaces and not 4. It's 60 feet wide. The uses are grandfathered as far as the parking recalcs in the bylaw for secondary dwellings versus primary dwellings. So I don't think you're required to have 6 spaces.
We're not required to have 6, no. It's just
They
the owner's,
want 6.
The owner's preference is to have adequate space.
Okay. What do you want to do?
Certainly we can screen it.
Yeah.
Being out there today, I'm very confident that across the street, in its existing conditions, got a 6-foot privacy fence with lattice on it, and very thick stand of vegetation in front of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
There's just nothing like it on Cato. This,
but there's gonna be more of it every time there's a sale. I mean, that's the thing.
well, what's the
I
pleasure?
mean, as long as the landscaping, Dan, screening the front, the cars, you can't see them. I mean, it looks like a yard. Eventually when things grow, it sort of just
Right.
becomes, arborvitae. I mean, whoever's growing those things in the real world is doing well. Wow. So, that's what that's my biggest thing is the looks of what it's going to look like compared to today. But it will change, and there's no question about that.
Barry?
Yep. So, Leslie, can I call on you for a second?
Yes.
Yeah.
Could you work, if we're so inclined at this point to move this ahead, could you work with Dan to try to, I think you get the sense of what the board would like to accomplish with screening,
Yes.
so that we're not kind of second guessing things, we don't have a good sense. But I think you do have a sense of what we're looking for, and if we're going to move ahead, I'd like to see if the board would be comfortable with the two of you working together to make that happen, so that these things are taken care of, both in terms of lighting that people are worried about and the visual impact from just seeing cars there.
Through you, Madam Chairman, I can certainly work with Dan on a screening plan, and I'm hearing that the owner is willing to cooperate with that, so I don't really see any issues there.
Thank you.
Thank you. The only other comment I had is that I believe it was continued from May. This hasn't had anything to do with you, Dan, but it was continued from May in order for the owners to talk to the neighbors, which I don't believe ever took place.
I can answer that. They are in contact with each other now. They hadn't been for a while last week. There was cross-traffic between them, and I expect there'll be more.
Would it not be more prudent to continue this to July to get a screening plan, see if they can reduce the size of the parking lot and whatever the neighbors are comfortable with? We don't know what that is.
From our standpoint, we'd rather not, only because we're almost close to wrapping everything up on the house. And this is something that's kind of been lingering for a while with the process. Obviously, if that's your desire, we don't have a choice, but we'd prefer to get this thing wrapped up so we can actually landscape it and get it built before the middle of summer.
Barry?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of curious at this point. Here we are, right? This is the second meeting we've had. We're asking for public testimony at this point. You're receiving none, okay, short of what you have in terms of letters. So I'm questioning the prudence of keeping it open another month, under which, you're going to try to solicit more testimony when here we are in the second meeting.
Well, we never heard it the last time.
Okay, but nonetheless, you've got letters, I think, that are before you at this point that express your concerns for what's going on. I think that the board is trying to be reasonable in terms of addressing said concerns in the letters. And, frankly, I'm vexed as to why no one's coming forward at this point to try to say something above and beyond that. So I'm not sure I would necessarily understand what this board's trying to accomplish in another month with that premise of waiting for more people to come forward. This is their opportunity.
Or a
Many
screening,
of them
or
are
a
off
screening
island.
plan. Or a
Well,
screening plan.
okay, but in terms of the screening plan, okay, that's why I brought this up. In terms of the screening plan at this point, if you guys aren't comfortable with Leslie, who's a professional here, who I think understands our concerns, unless there are unvocalized concerns, which I'd like to hear, I think you've got our planning staff willing to work with the applicant to try to do the best job they possibly can under which to do it. So, if there's further additional concerns that this board doesn't feel are being addressed under screening plans, I for one would like to hear it. But personally, I have the utmost confidence that, Leslie's got oodles of experience here in terms of doing this. And I think she's heard what our concerns are, and I believe that between her and Dan, who I've known for a long while, I believe they can adequately address that. But if you guys are feeling like there's more concerns, I'd like to hear it. That's all. Thank you.
Reasonable. John?
Just as I said before, I don't have a problem with it. I know your concerns about the driveway, and you have to think about it with the proper screening. And also, I'd rather see cars parked off than overflow onto the street. So I think if there's inadequate parking, you're going to find that there will be cars parked on the street. So I think the way it is, I'm okay with it.
Okay.
And working with Leslie, obviously, to make sure that the proper screening, but also the width of the aprons are correct. I'm okay.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Carl?
For the record, the letters indicated that residents across the street would not be able to attend the meeting because they're not here today. They're not on island. They're not here to testify in a public hearing. They're off island.
Yeah.
The letters that I read, all of them were.
Okay. Leslie, is this a 3-person or a 4-person vote?
This is a 3-2 vote.
3-2.
And, the point of a butter notification is to put people on notice so that they can either testify in writing or testify at the meeting. So they've had ample opportunity to come to the board and make their feelings known. And I think out of respect to the applicant, you all should go ahead and move forward with this.
Okay. Is there any public comment now? We do have, right behind you. Can you come up to the microphone? Sure. And identify yourself?
My name is Steve Cinetti. I've been the caretaker there for 3 years through 2 owners.
Which property? This one?
37 Cato Lane.
Okay.
And could you go to the picture just that had the aerial view of the house, please?
There we go.
And just enlarge it. I've been working on the cottage for the last 3 weeks, which is a small building in the lower right-hand corner, and I've taken a couple of breaks during the day. I sit on the front stairs of that house. I cannot see the 2 houses that are directly in front of it. I can see the house in the bottom right-hand corner. And if the concern about the driveway and the lights and the traffic, it's going to be eliminated by moving the driveway to the front of the house instead of where it is now. It has to come up and around that corner. That lower right-hand corner is the only house I can see in the last month from that property, and I've been working there every day. The homeowners, and then the other thing I've had, you talk about public comment, people have walked up to me, are you the homeowner, are you the homeowner? And I said, no, I'm not, I'm working here. Why? And they say, is this going to be a dormitory? Is this going to be housing for a hotel? He's being painted with a brush from previous people who are interested in buying it. The guy's been nothing but fair in improving the property as far as I can see. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. That's why I brought that up, because there's been so much concern before this. Barry?
So let's try something.
We'll just close the public hearing.
This is a public hearing, but let's try something. You've twice called for public comment at this point. I'm not hearing any more. So if there are other things we need to flesh out, let's do it. But I'm all set to close the public hearing at this point, and that's my motion.
Okay. There's been a motion made to close the public hearing.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carl, I'm going to put you on.
You don't have to. This is just a...
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's right, a subdivision.
Correct. It's modification.
No, it's a 3 vote. It's 4 of us voting, because you're recused,
Mr.
right?
Markinger's
I'm
recused.
recused, yeah.
Yeah. Oh. Okay, so all those in favor of closing the public hearing?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's 4 of us. Okay, what's your pleasure on the motion?
I'll make the motion to approve the modification with the existing driveway on Hiawassee fixed to the zoning requirements, Leslie. To work with the applicant on the screening plan for the front.
And staff.
Right. On the screening of those, those parking areas. What was the other thing that you brought up? Was there one more thing, or is that it?
No, the other issues are with Ed Pesci from, that's a
okay.
subdivision problem.
Yep.
All right, I know about that. Okay.
And
So
can
that would
you-
be my motion.
Okay, there's been a motion made and seconded. Can you make a friendly amendment to reduce it, if possible, reduce the size of that parking area?
For the areas, Dan? Are you talking about on
Cato.
Not on the other one.
Cato.
Okay.
The size of the parking, is that what you're asking? We can certainly take a look at it.
Okay. Is that part of your motion,
That's
guys?
fine on my motion.
Okay. All right, hearing nothing else, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? I am.
So 3-1.
Yeah, it's a 3-1, Catherine.
If I can make one separate request after that, thank you, by the way. If the board could consider a separate, not necessarily a motion or vote, but maybe a direction to have staff send a letter to the developer to maybe try to
You talking about
put
the
some
infrastructure?
on the infrastructure and put some pressure on the previous developer through the board to maybe
Let's just.
try to get the project done, because there's other people in the area that have had complaints and issues as well. And just since we're
We're
here,
holding money from that, aren't we, Leslie?
We are holding, well, you are holding about $25,000, and the developer who represented the owner of the subdivision was just recently in to see me to go over the list from Ed Pesci.
Okay.
So
Okay.
there
All right.
may be some movement on that
So I
soon, but
think
I could
there's the
certainly contact him
Yeah,
to try to move that along.
Awesome.
thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yep.
For the record, just to go on the record, a number of the abutters, now that this vote is over, had said that they were not notified properly as abutters. I just want to ask the planning department to please double check notifying abutters, because they complained that they were not notified. They only found out about it in the Enquirer and Mirror. So
we did have that conversation in the office, Leslie.
We did look into it. The abutters notifications were sent out in a timely manner. They're sent certified mail, so sometimes it takes a little while to get there. And we frequently have to remind people that we are required to use the address that's on file with the tax assessor. So that address may not be their address here. It may go to an attorney. It may go to some P.O. box somewhere. But we have looked into it on every complaint, and their notice was sent. So if
Okay.
anyone wants to come in and talk to us, I'd be happy to look into it for them.
because I see that a lot in letters, and I'm just
Yeah.
double checking.
Well, what happens in particularly April, May, June, sometimes July, having done 25 years of ZBA mailings, is that they have one address for their tax bill, which is the one we get, but they're here. So it goes from here to there, back to here, if they forward their mail. This 3 or 4 month period, every single year, no matter what board it is, it happens all the time. And it's an unfortunate situation with being such a seasonal place. Okay, moving on. Orange Street Residential, 137 and 141 Orange Street. I understand you got your HDC approval?
Yes, we did. Thank you. For
Good.
the record, I'm DJ McKinnon from Atlantic Development, and we did get the HDC approval, and if we could go to the color aerial, I think I can update you on a couple of things. Let's see. Not that one. Looks like the existing. Okay, there. Well, actually, if you just moved to, there should have been a color aerial as part of the package that shows the new layout. So maybe at the end of all those plans. Okay. Okay. Well, if we just go to the site plan, then I can explain it from there. Okay, so this would be a good one to go. Actually, that's the drainage plan, so why don't we go up another sheet or two? Okay, that's a good one. So from the last meeting, we had kind of given an update of the plan. It's a 4-unit building with 8 parking spaces. It's fully in conformance with zoning. Part of the discussion that we were having with the HDC was kind of the orientation of the building, and there were some concepts where it was parallel to Orange Street, other concepts where it was a little more parallel to Dave Street, and ultimately it was kind of settled out based on this plan, primarily working with the HDC. It's kind of a similar orientation of these other buildings in the neighborhood. So that's what's kind of set the angle of this. And essentially that's where they rested with their approval of the plan. So from a site plan standpoint, that's where we are. We did have a couple of comments in the staff report from Ed Pesci. One of the items that came up last week, so fairly recently, was that there's a proposal to put a bike path and change the sidewalk along Orange Street. And the way that impacts the plan is it would have come pretty much right against this corner of the porch. So we have also submitted, which I assume you have, Holly, a separate sheet, and that was in response to that. This is the most recent one. Where is it? Where basically, as she's getting there, we were able to come up with a method of, okay, it's this sheet right here, it's a good one. What we ended up doing, these two blue lines that we've been given, this lower one closest to Orange Street is the proposed bike path, and then the next area is the proposed sidewalk. So to try to accommodate that, we did is we took the building and shifted it back 2 feet. So at this back corner here, instead of being 5 feet off the property line, would now be 3 feet off the property line. But in doing it, it would create our closest point to the porch of about 2.5 feet off of the proposed new sidewalk, if that sidewalk is shifted in that direction. So we thought it was a way to try to accommodate the potential of the future bike path and sidewalk along Orange Street, where essentially what we'd be doing is would be starting out, losing my pointer here, would be starting out with the building, it's 4 feet and 8 inches, or 4.8 feet off the property line, so it's still within the 5 feet, which is the maximum setback. But if they do end up doing that widening, which is about 2 feet, right at this point here, if they do that widening, we're still about 2 feet off the corner of the porch with the new proposed sidewalk. So it was a way to stay in conformance with the zoning, but at the same time accommodate the change that may occur. We're not sure of the timing of that, so I'm not sure how the board wants to address it. We're happy to kind of leave that area available if they need it for the sidewalk. It may be better and if they're not looking to go ahead with that work soon, I think we'd rather build this as proposed with the sidewalk in its proposed location, and then if and when they come through and make changes with the roadway to accommodate the bike path and the sidewalk, we've left room for it. So that was our thought on how we could kind of deal with that. Some of the other questions that came up in Ed Pesci's letter were, he had suggested that these would be proposed conditions, if you're so inclined to move in that direction, that we do touch base with the fire department. We were unable to get any comments from them because Bob Bates is out until June 27th. But we had worked with him on our previous plans, and we feel that this building having frontage on 2 public streets is, about as accessible as any building on Nantucket from a fire standpoint, but we could do that as well. And then he did have a comment to make sure that we have a long-term stormwater management operation plan, which we obviously would. So I think that's kind of the update from where we were last time, and just trying to make those accommodations.
Thank you. Board members? Barry?
Yeah, thanks. So, Leslie, for you,
Yes.
if you don't mind. I know you've had conversations with Mike about the bike path, and I'd be curious to know from a staff perspective what it is that you kind of envision that really should happen here, because like with most projects, this will be one of these that we've got to get it right the first time because we seldom get a second bite at the apple here. So just to kind of round that out and see what it is that from your perspective and from Mike's perspective really does need to happen in order to do this, because the bike path, especially in this area, is critical.
Oh, yeah. We hope it happens.
Yeah. So I'd like to hear from them what their vision is and what we really need to do to get there, if you don't mind.
Well, with a lot of these public projects, they don't necessarily move swiftly or on schedule. So I think DJ's proposal, which would be to go ahead and build out the sidewalk, but to leave room for the town's plans to be implemented later, is a very reasonable proposal, and it would get some infrastructure in the meantime. Right. So I recommend that approach.
All right, great. And so that brings me to my second question, though. Do you have site control of 141 as well?
No. Well, this is 141, just 141. No, we don't on 137.
You don't on 137. No. I'm sorry. That's okay. So, Leslie, because I agree again with what you and Andrew are raising up from staff, and Holly are bringing up from a staff perspective, is to develop some type of master plan. So is there something we can incorporate into the document that would give us some flexibility so that if somehow these two properties do begin to max themselves out somehow, that we've got a better handle on it as opposed to having to do it on a piecemeal. Yes, this one was developed, thank you very much. Can't go near it again. You see where I'm going with this.
Yeah, we could certainly put in some type of condition if the applicant agrees, which it sounds like you probably would, to adjust the infrastructure at a later time to correlate with whatever happens on the rest of Orange Street and on the abutting property.
Would that be reasonable?
Well, I guess
For the sidewalk.
for this, I guess what our hope would be to build the for us to basically build the sidewalk out with the development. If the town comes back afterwards to come along Orange Street and put in a bike path as well as a new sidewalk, I think we're happy to make the land available, but I think at that point you're probably going to hire a contractor to do a whole stretch of Orange Street. So to try to make changes on a part that we already built doesn't seem like a reasonable approach. I mean, we're happy to make the land available, but we don't know when or if, or who knows what that plan would be. It could be this plan, it could be something different. So our thought is we'll build a brand new sidewalk when we do the project, but then leave the room for the town to come in and make whatever changes they want in the future.
Okay, so maybe I was unclear in what I was saying, but so you would go ahead and build the sidewalk, but you would be willing to grant an easement or something for future improvements?
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, and so in relation to, but let me go back to the 137 Orange Street moment, because you've talked about developing a small master plan should that get developed. Did I not, or did I misread that in the application somehow? That you were trying to be concerned that if the other parcel becomes available and something of this magnitude opens back up, that somehow between these two parcels it's well coordinated.
Well, at this point, the applicant doesn't have control over the abutting property.
Correct.
I mean, it originally came in as sort of a joint application of the two. It's changed over time.
Right.
So I think as far as the structure and the base site improvements, we have to look at them on a case-by-case basis.
Okay. All right, thank you. Thanks.
But just to follow up, this line doesn't extend in front of 137, so hopefully they're aware that that is the future plan to possibly make sure that there's room left along the 137 stretch as well.
Great.
Okay, one thing.
Joe?
Yeah, I mean, I think we need an easement along Dave Street, don't we? Where the back edge of the sidewalk is?
And
Sure.
And where the corner is.
Yeah,
Because otherwise, when your
Yeah.
property's going out into the pave, and then a construction easement along Orange for the...
right. Okay. And we had talked about some of those at an earlier meeting with the sidewalk on Dave.
We did?
Yeah.
We did, okay.
Yep.
And then you had a note about extending the sidewalk to the crosswalk and putting an ADA ramp in.
Yep, they have to.
I didn't write the staff report. Holly did, so maybe that's a question
I'm
for
not
her.
Holly.
Yeah, that was something after,
I mean, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, so where's it, right in this, is that right? Yeah, no, I think that'd be fine.
Yeah.
Because I think as long as we can get it in the town right away, which it looks like we can, so.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
So the building would be where you have it?
Yeah.
Right, you're showing it now, the 4 feet 8?
Right.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other comments from the board members? John? Okay, this is a public hearing, and anybody in the public would like to have a comment? Mr. Gray?
Good evening, everyone. David Gray, Sewer Director. I just want everyone to realize that with a lot of these big projects coming up, I'm going to be around speaking on them. There is a 55-year-old sewer main in front of this property in the sidewalk that we just recently did a CCTV of for a downstream capacity because of the Shimo project, because of the potential of that whole area coming down in through to C Street. We're planning to go another way, but just so everyone's aware that there's some old infrastructure in this area. So
It's still functioning,
it's functioning, yes.
more or less.
Yes, it's been, it gets a little rougher shape further down, but I just want everyone to know that there's some infrastructure concerns, so.
David, when you bring up something like this, Sorry, Miss Madam
Go
Chair.
ahead.
I almost said Mrs. Chair.
No, don't do that.
In a case like this, okay, so they're going to build a sidewalk over the old sewer. Is that what you're saying right now?
Well, the way it's planned, this is not on any of my master plans for replacing the sewer, but
I mean, 55 years old isn't that old.
no, but what you got
and-
there is AC pipe.
No, I was going to bring that up. It's not clay tile, right?
No, this is not clay tile.
Okay,
No.
so it's
Not clay.
growing inside old stuff, right? But it's not collapsing stuff.
It's not collapsed or anything, but this also we also had an issue down by Goose Pond with the same old sewer line.
That
so,
line, yeah.
I just
thought we
went to the
but
board.
didn't we dig all the way to the rotary? That was phase one. I
No,
thought
it
we
stopped
did all
at,
that.
It stopped at Goose Pond.
Oh, wow.
Really?
Yeah.
I remember we had it dug up all the way to the rotary, though. I thought
Yeah,
we
they did a lot of
something.
they did a lot of drainage improvements from the rotary into town,
Okay.
but the sewer, the new sewer.
So we don't want the applicant to do something, and then it's got to get all torn up.
well, I just
fix
want
something.
everyone, I just wanted the board to be aware that there's some concerns. They haven't come to us for any permits or anything like that yet, so it'll
Yeah,
be
but
brought
this
up to them.
but doesn't this stuff come under coordinated review type thing? I mean, this isn't like a gigantic, massive project. This
No,
is
it's not a
just,
gigantic project, but
I mean,
the sewer department has been left out
Just-
of a lot of conversations in the past that I'm trying to get more involved. So
Yeah.
you should be seeing a lot more of me.
Okay.
all right. I mean, I don't.
Yeah, always up there. So is, just out of curiosity, is there, I mean, there is going to be construction happening here. Is there an opportunity to coordinate with the applicant to maybe make something happen if you need
There is
to?
possibly, yes, and I'd be willing to talk to them when it comes to that, when they get to our, like I said, they haven't come to us yet with any discussions. I know that we just did the disconnect for the sewer, for the building that was there.
Yeah.
That was old 4-inch clay tile line, which ties in somewhere. I'm going to at least require them to do CCTV work of their lines so that we know what's going on.
Okay,
But I just wanted the board to know.
Well, thank you very much.
thanks.
Madam Chairman.
Leslie?
Just to point out, a lot of these improvements will require work in the public right-of-way, so there will be plenty of time for discussion at the Board of Selectmen and higher staff level with other departments. And, the sewer department's new, so it hasn't necessarily been left out of prior discussions. The former DPW director who was over sewer was well aware of a lot of these projects and was consulted ahead of time. So we'll certainly include him in coordinated reviews and other meetings going forward, and we've already talked about that.
That's good. Long overdue. Thanks, David. Anything else from the board? Nothing else from the audience? Okay, what's your pleasure?
I just have one question.
Barry?
Yeah, Leslie, is there anything outstanding on this project that needs to be further addressed? I mean, do you still need to hear from the fire department?
Ed Pesci?
Do we still need more Ed Pesci review? I'm just kind of curious as to where we are in the grand scheme.
Here are his questions
So
from today.
we have an updated review from Pesci Engineering. It's in your packet.
Yep.
I think everything that's outstanding can be addressed between your consulting engineer and the applicant's engineer.
Okay.
Anything related to the fire, I also think can be easily addressed. I don't see anything that would require major plan change.
Okay.
There really aren't any outstanding issues on the staff side.
All right, great.
But I do want to just confirm that the applicant is intending to construct that sidewalk that we see on Dave Street on the plan. Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Any comments from over there?
Then
Okay.
I'll
What would
make
you like
a
to do?
motion that we close the public hearing at this point.
Okay, there's been a motion made and seconded to close the public hearing. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. You ready to craft something?
Well, gonna need some help from staff. I mean, the bottom line is that I'd like to make a motion to approve the project and with, definitely the responses that we've brought up in the course of the past few meetings here.
And Pesci stuff.
So Leslie, just kind of, if you can help me out a little bit with that.
Really, the main conditions would be that they install the sidewalks as
Yep.
shown on the plan. That easements are reserved for future changes to the sidewalk, particularly along Orange Street, that they agree to grant to the town or county of Nantucket easements on Orange and Dave
Yep.
for the sidewalk.
Mm-hmm.
There's really not any conditions about occupancy. This is an apartment building. It's market rate. There's nothing that you can regulate there.
Correct.
We'll put in all the requisite findings for any of the other waivers. So unless there are any special conditions, I don't have any. This
No,
project's pretty straightforward.
I appreciate you running through that.
The
Is there any-
crosswalk ramp, right?
Oh, I do have that written down,
Okay.
yes.
Yep.
Extending the
Okay.
crosswalk and installing the
ADA.
handicap ramp.
Okay.
Just one second before we close. Is there any thought with any kind of lighting as they exit out onto this new built sidewalk on Dave Street with the parking places? Is there any kind of lighting restriction or thought to that?
Frankly, there should be coming out of there. There is absolutely no light coming around that corner and going up Dave until you get up Dave. There might be a carriage light at the entrance to the driveway, something to light the driveway.
Sure, we're happy to, I know Leslie's good with lights, we're happy to.
Yeah, Leslie's good with lights.
No.
We're happy to work with whoever you want us to on the lights.
Okay, so we'll work that into something that should be shown on the final plan.
That'd be great.
Okay.
And I'm sure there's a screening plan in your packet, but if there's not, that's something that we'll need as well, screening the parking
It
area.
didn't jump out at me looking at all these plans, so. Okay, Barry, I assume that's your motion. What
That
you just
is,
said.
that's exactly where I'd like to head at this point, because I want to make sure that the checklist was locked and loaded.
Okay, is there a
So
second?
thank you.
One more, Leslie?
Just one clarification, is that the landscaping plan, Holly? Because at a much earlier meeting, there was a lot of discussion about the landscaping along Orange Street.
Yeah.
And I think we did talk about not using plant materials that would grow into
The
the sidewalk.
sidewalk.
Yeah,
Right.
encroachment stuff
Okay,
down there.
so we'll put something about that in the decision as well.
Okay.
Good.
That's a good one.
Okay, is that your motion?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there a
Sure
second?
is.
Anybody?
Second. Yeah.
Okay, there's been motion made and seconded, what Leslie said. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, the next one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kuchera should be withdrawn. Is this the one that should be withdrawn?
Yes, I do have a withdrawal from the attorney, but it did not make it into the packet. So I would ask that you vote to allow the withdrawal of this.
Okay, so
Make
wanna
a
make that-
motion to take the withdrawal without prejudice.
Okay,
Second.
is there a second? Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Kenneth Coffin. I think the last 3 lots available in the pit.
Nantucket.
The pit. Dave,
The SE2 pit.
representing the applicant.
Yep. I see you have
State your name for the tape.
David Coffin.
Okay.
See that you have 5 points of concern that you guys have. So I'd just like to answer those questions. The material for the proposed parking lot will be gravel, crushed stone. The stormwater runoff, do you guys have concerns over the roof runoff or the overall site runoff?
Leslie?
Madam Chairman, I believe that was somewhat related to the material of the parking lot. So if you're using crushed stone,
So it's,
everything will percolate.
Okay.
Don't have any issues there.
Okay,
yeah.
Yeah, the reason why there was an issue with the other guys is that they paved,
sure.
and we had to force the drainage and all that for
Gotcha.
belly trots and all the rest of those
Yep.
guys.
Okay. The exterior storage, there is no exterior storage proposed.
Okay.
And the screening, we had not planned on doing any screening down there. I don't know what your thoughts on that are.
No one else has screening.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and there's no loading zone proposed either. Just the large parking lot in between the 2 buildings.
Okay, this is minor. Leslie, this is minor site plan review?
It is, yes.
It didn't rise to the level of an MCD?
No, it was under the maximum square foot or minimum square footage for an MCD.
Okay. Board members, any comments? John, Nat, Barry, Joe?
I'm fine with
Okay. This is a public hearing. Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to comment on this application?
Motion to close the public hearing.
There's been a motion made and seconded to close the public hearing. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and what's your pleasure?
Make a motion to approve?
Leslie, any conditions at all?
No.
Okay. Nat's made a motion
I'll
to
second.
approve with Barry seconding, and all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, thanks. That was painless, Dave.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Are we on?
Oh, wait a second.
Okay, Barry, you have to take this one.
All right, so the next thing before us at this point is 43-17, Jonathan H. and Barbara Renz and One Wrights Landing. For the applicant. Hi.
Good evening. I'm Jeff Morash, builder, caretaker for John and Barbara Renz, who own One Wrights Landing. We're just asking, we want to build a pool and a shed. We want to move the shed over to the right-hand corner towards all that greenery, the green belt, conservation land, whatever we want to call it. In 2010, the setbacks were from 20 foot to 10 foot. We want to move it to 6 foot. I believe you guys can allow that as long as it doesn't affect any neighbors or the neighborhood. And as you can see, in my opinion, it doesn't, because we're moving it over towards the green area there. This is a shed. It's for the pool equipment, bicycles, lawn mowers, whatever they want to do. They don't have any place to put any of that stuff. It's next to the pool, as you can see. There's no driveway to it. And I think that's it.
It's behind the building. Barry.
Oh, yeah, there it is. I see it. Okay.
I have some, I
Yes.
have some pictures of where you stand on the road. I'm sorry, there's some more here. There are 3 other sheds in the development. Some you can see plain and clearly. Others are kind of behind the houses, and you can partially see them. There are also 3 other pools in the neighborhood as well. If you want to see the pictures, I don't think you're going to see this shed too visibly from the road. You might have to look pretty hard.
Okay. Anything else?
No, sir. Thank
No,
you
okay.
for your time.
Board members? Any questions?
Is that
Yeah.
is the pool equipment going to be in the shed? The pumps and such?
Probably some of it, but no. It will be in the back of it. Kind
Oh,
of.
behind it? Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Thanks.
Anyone else on the board? You guys good?
Public hearing.
Leslie, just refresh me at this point. Does this fall to the level of special permit?
It is. It's a modification to a
There you
previously
go.
granted
So,
special
gentlemen,
permit.
I'm going to be calling on one of you before the end of this. Okay. Thank you. All right. Hearing nothing else from the board at this point, this is a public hearing, so if someone would like to comment on it. Good evening.
Nancy Wheatley, 6 Wrights Landing. Nice to see you, Jeff. Haven't seen him for a while. This is this is rather distressing to me because, in fact, Wrights Landing has a considerable number of limitations in terms of what we can do, and there has been when we first had when the development was first put together, we were not able to have another structure. We could only have the house. And so in 2007, I came to the planning board, and we were allowed to add another structure. And the description of the structure was, let's see, we may have a dwelling. No dwelling shall permit. Sorry, having a hard time here reading. Getting old. Specifically prohibited are separate detached garages. A deed restriction to these effects will run. So while we could have, we changed it to allow an additional structure. Detached garages specifically still were not allowed. And if you look at the picture that's on the wall there, you can see where the driveway is, and you can see two items going back towards the shed that's there. The shed that's there is approximately 15 to 20 feet in size, which is a little bit more than the other than the sheds that are used for the other pools around in the neighborhood. Mm-hmm. So it's not consistent with the limitations that are in the requirements for the development. Moreover, if you go to the last page of the let's see which page is it. If you go to the last this page, which follows that one. See if it's numbered here.
This one?
Yeah, that's it. So if you look at that, if you look at the bottom left-hand corner, you will see, as I noted earlier, the driveway does go down towards that shed. Mm-hmm. And when you look at that shed, you can see that there are very large doors at the small end, and those are large enough. The size of the shed itself is the size for a one car, and the doors to it will allow the car to go in there. So in fact, it is not a shed. It is a detached garage. And one other thing about the request for the permit, it starts by saying that the applicant has the right to do this as a matter of right, and she told me that the only thing that she needed to have approved by the planning board was the offset for the setback. Excuse me, setback. Yeah, thank you. And that she had a right to do this, and I find all this rather discouraging because she said she had a right to do it as a right. So if I didn't know, if I wasn't as familiar as I was with the requirements of the development, I would have assumed that I couldn't comment on this. And I think it was an intention. The intention was for people not to believe that they could do anything about this. And I know you received another comment from Dave Feeney, who is the neighbor to that. And so I don't have any problems with the pool. I don't have any problems with the pool shed, but I do have problems with this application because it is at best disingenuous and incorrect.
Okay.
And that's what I have to say.
Thank you. So, board, anyone else wishing to comment on this application, first of all? Board members, do you have anything?
It does look like a garage. I don't know how we come into it, but
Go ahead.
As far as the shed, it doesn't. Each lot has 2,000 square feet of ground cover.
Yeah.
The house is X amount of square feet, and leaving us 273, this is just a little under that. Number two, if there's a way to appease the board here to make it not a garage with no apron or having the first floor up 6 inches, because that's how we're going to build a shed where you step up 7 inches. You can't drive a car in there. This is a shed. You will see bikes, rafts, whatever. Maybe it was a garage to her, but to my clients, it's not a garage.
Can I?
Go ahead.
The 273 square feet. Now, what's allowed for a shed?
That's my question.
It's 200. I thought it was 200 maximum, right?
Well, that's if
Against ground cover.
if you don't want it to
He was
count for
talking
ground
about that,
cover,
yeah.
but we want 273 and
Oh,
count
okay,
for ground
okay,
cover.
is that right? Yeah.
And you putting the pool stuff inside, Jeff?
I'm sorry,
You
what?
putting the pool stuff inside?
Most of it, yes.
Good. I mean, that's. I mean, oh. You know, I just want to. Can I just like comment a little bit on
Yeah,
this?
please.
I mean, I'm
I
not
would
trying
like you
to.
to. Yeah.
Okay. 1997. And Nancy, I hear you. Don't get upset with me. I'm not questioning the subdivision, but I'm questioning at the time things were different. I mean, 97 was like 77 when it comes to the amenity thing. That's my new line of the week. Amenities. Everything is an amenity now. If this project came to us to not have a shed, to not have a garage today, they would never even want that, because people's cars are outside rotting in their driveway. Rotting. Brake calipers are frozen to the road as they show up with they get their little Uber ride to their house and they can't even move their car 2 feet before the calipers are frozen. Okay, this is what's going on. That's why there's applications for people parking inside, paying someone to park their car for the winter. So I understand that this looks like a garage, and I'm not questioning. I don't care. This is what they have out there. I'm just making a point about this stuff is going to come up for other places. You know what I'm saying? It's good that you get the pool stuff inside. That's bad. That's another issue. Everything's outside and it's junk in a year. You know what I mean? Because of ground cover, because of these odd things with these houses counting in, there's 270 feet like you're talking about. But I mean, Leslie, you gotta tell us. Is this against the original decision, or is this not? I mean, that's where the rubber meets the road.
So a couple of things to keep in mind. With cluster subdivisions, or major residential developments, which is how this was permitted, the planning board commonly puts in conditions about accessory structures. So that's not that unusual. I mean, frequently it pertains to dwelling units, but a lot of them have quirky things in them. So this was approved in 97. In 2007, there was an amendment to allow certain things, but detached garages, secondary dwelling studios continued to be not allowed.
Yep.
Then in 2010, there was another amendment that allowed this side yard setback reduction, and that applied to pools and pool sheds only. So it doesn't apply to garages, doesn't apply to other types of structures. So, this, just in looking at it, does look like a garage. The size of it certainly may be big enough for a garage. If the board thinks it's important to keep with the intent of that restriction that says no detached garages, you could either, one, have them revise it in some way so that it couldn't be used for a garage, like change the doors or something like that, make it smaller. Or two, you could put a condition in the decision that it not be used for garage-type purposes. I guess it just depends on how strict you want to be about making sure it's not used as a garage and going with the applicant's representation that that's not their intent.
So, Leslie, I have a question for you. So 273 would be permissible under the current, under everything that's current with this application before us and the modifications to the subdivision out there, correct? That would be permissible as a shed.
It would be as a shed,
Yeah.
and the zoning bylaw doesn't limit the size of the shed, but it says it can't be designed for plumbing or heating.
Okay. And technically, according to the application, this would be a pool shed. Is that correct? That's how it's being labeled.
That's how
And
it's being labeled.
And that would be, again, something that would adhere within the planning board document, correct?
It would.
Without ambiguity to what it is and what its function is, right?
A true pool shed would fall within the permit.
Okay, because the reason why I'm kind of tracking with you on this is a special permit, and one thing I know about special permits, it's never failed me that if the special permit goes awry, the neighborhood or an applicant can request the board to reopen that. And again, we can go back in and begin to modify whatever may need to happen to correct that situation. So I think with the garage, potential for a garage sitting there, I think you define that within the scope of the document by saying that it will be a pool shed. I think that may go to satisfy the neighborhood to a certain extent. I think the neighbors need to understand that if it becomes something different than that, they have a full right to come back before this board, which I know no applicant wants to have to come back a second time for. But they could definitely request this board to reopen that hearing, and we could do a full-fledged examination at that point, with the potential for modifications if it ever did become that. Is that correct and fair to say?
That's correct.
Okay. You were going to say something, Leslie?
I just have a question about the plan. What is that fencing detail on the back? I mean, that looks like something similar to what would normally be used to screen pool equipment.
I believe that's to be true. I don't think we can put all the pool equipment in there, especially like gas fire burning units. So I think that's to screen the pool equipment that we do put outside.
I think you're going to hear a few comments from the board, but I've got to say, for one person sitting here, 273 square feet, and you can't fit stuff in there. I'm vexed by that one.
He's talking about something else.
Okay, so I'm sorry.
You can put them inside. It's just venting issues he's talking about.
Oh, okay. That's why I'm not tracking that conversation. But go ahead, Dave.
There will be pool equipment in here because there has to be pool equipment for it to sit in the setback. Otherwise, you don't qualify.
We won't have any pool equipment in the setbacks, correct?
No, he meant
no.
To get the waiver. He meant to get the waiver.
So the pool equipment will be in.
Oh, to make it a pool house.
It has to be a pool house to get the waiver. Right.
So,
yeah, hold on. I'm going to go.
I just want to read the waiver so everyone understands what it is.
Yes, ma'am.
That the rear yard setback for Wine Rice Landing shall be reduced from 20 feet to 10 feet as agreed by the applicant. The reduced rear yard setback shall only apply to the construction of a swimming pool and related shed or mechanical equipment, a pool house, or bulkhead. Other structures or portions thereof must conform to the 20-foot requirement. So that's where the pool equipment and shed comes in.
Steve, and then I'll go to Joe.
Yeah, look, whether it's a shed or a garage, is it a fish or a bird? If it looks like a fish, it's a fish. If it looks like a bird, it's a bird. My only concern is that we're looking at, without a condition that it not be used as a garage as a condition on this special permit, we're kind of flaunting in contravention our own major residential development restrictions. Mm-hmm. And I would just suggest that if they say they're going to use it for a pool equipment, they say they're going to use it for a shed, that, as Leslie suggested, they either modify it so that it doesn't qualify as a garage, which is where you park a motor vehicle by definition, or there be a condition that it not be used for motor vehicle parking. Make it easier for the neighbors to self-enforce their major residential development conditions. And as a whole, if the community wants to come in and ask for a change to their major residential, then they do that, because as Nat said, things have changed. But they have an opportunity to come in and make changes to reflect modern day needs and convenience, and that all of them would like to have. But if you bought a property in this community, you bought subject to certain restrictions, and you may want to have them out. So I just put that out there, that if it were to be approved as a shed, that it be made to be a shed, either through conditions and or through changes so you can't physically park a motor vehicle inside.
Right, and that's why I was saying to Leslie at this point, the moment it attaches the moniker pool shed to it, that's it. That's its intended purpose now, not to become something different in the future. Yeah. And as I said, if it changes from the label that gets put on it, then again, either this board or the residents in the subdivision can come forward and say, That's what it started as. It's different now. Please reopen the public hearing.
Yeah, so my comment's really
I see what you're
tracking
saying.
yours, but I wanted to add that whole
You
part
just
about the major residential development. Because
Yeah.
if they all want to make a change, they come back and make a change.
sure.
But
All right, so let me go to Joe, and then I'll come to you.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have it in front of us now. We should have the doors be small enough so it can't be used as a garage. I don't think that it's right to have the neighbors have to police it.
Well,
I mean, they may
that's
police
a
it
good point.
if it's the
right there.
opportunity, but it's here
Yeah.
now.
Okay.
So that's what I say, and I also don't understand the reduction to a 6-foot setback when it seems like there's abundant room to have the 10-foot setback. And we have had other times next to public land where we made them hold the setback.
Well, there was stuff going on in that land. This is just
Well,
deer.
similar.
It's a little different than, I know what you're thinking about.
Yeah.
That's not even close to this. But
Well, there's a
wasn't
reason it was
didn't
open
they
land.
change the setback in log 3 or something? Leslie, didn't you mention that earlier? Is that what happened, Jeff? Is that what you referred to?
I don't know. The only thing is we're asking for the 6-foot setback because it doesn't work at 10 feet. Kind of crunches everything in there, and so that's why we're here today, trying to get the 6 back. Like I said, it's not affecting any of the neighbors. I have some pictures. It's all conservation to the right side there, and I'm hoping 4 feet isn't a big deal here.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to clarify something. I misspoke earlier about that reduction in the setback.
Yes, ma'am.
This property did receive a prior reduction for the setback, but that was only for the rear yard. So that doesn't apply to this particular structure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I misread the original decision. So for this instance, you can waive up to 100% of the side yard setback if you choose.
Should be a reason, right?
Can I ask that?
Well,
Probably be a good approach to state one in the decision.
So, and I think that may not be such a bad thing. So, Leslie, is that true? That's, again, I'm just confirming for the record at this point, that is conservation land to the right of it, correct?
I believe so. Let me just look at. It's either conservation or it's open space for the subdivision. Just let me
It was part
confirm
of
that.
the cluster. Well, we didn't call
Hold
it
up,
cluster. It's NRD then.
Wait a minute, wait. I'm getting a whole bunch of mixed messages. That's why I want to hear from one person, which is going to be staff.
I think
So-
I can answer it.
Leslie?
I am verifying, so if you don't mind to
thank you. So I'll
hold.
give you a few moments under which to do that. Thank you. Because I think Mr. Markinger raises an incredibly good point that I think that I for one would now like to hear. You know what? Thank you for bringing that up.
You remember the one?
Yeah. So the reason for the change in the setback would be so that, as one member of the board, I'm clear.
So that it all works. It's too tight up against the pool if we do the 10-foot.
Okay.
I do believe that what I know, because I lived in 2 Wrights Landing, is this is a cluster development. It started off as 30 acres. It was condensed down to 5 or 6 acres, and then there's some sort of that we pay taxes on around the development, which I think is another 5 or 6 acres. Then so that belongs to one council, and then beyond that is conservation land.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
I keep getting a black screen on the screen I'm trying to look at. But it is either dedicated conservation land owned by an organization or it's conservation as part of the cluster. So either way, it's preserved open space.
Okay, so somehow, okay, thank you. That because that raises an important point. Let me go to Steve. I'll come to you. I got to go back out here for a minute and see what's going on. So go ahead.
just to what the reason is for the setback, does the pool exist currently?
No, it's under construction.
So if I were voting on this, I would have no issue with the reason for the setback being reduced is that if in the future we're going to change this to, we're going to try and get the community to come in and accept garages detached, we'd like it lined up. It's complete with the existing driveway. completely rational, makes perfect sense to me. It's next to open space and so on and so forth. So I just want to put that out there, that there may be rationales that haven't been developed yet for it to be over there. But I did want to check and see if that pool is, because in the locust map it doesn't show anything with the pool.
Okay. Thank you. Go ahead.
Just, oh, my turn now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, don't be.
Leslie, can I ask a question? Is this up subject to the 30-year sunset?
No.
Okay.
Restrictions held by the planning board do not expire.
Okay, so this isn't like Mizzenmast was or
Correct.
Diaron or any of that?
No.
Okay, that's huge, because if it was coming up on 30 years, all this stuff kind of goes away. It has to be re-voted or some other thing. That would be a different story. So fits kind of a little bit with what Steve is saying. I don't think, and Steve mentioned something earlier, is it appropriate to state a condition in a condition that's already in the subdivision? In other words, this MRD, that's what they called it then, right?
That's what it was then, yes.
That condition about the stuff he mentioned, we're talking about, is it appropriate to put it in the condition as just a reminder, or is that inappropriate to do?
No,
it makes sense to say it, I think, in our approval, if we do approve it, to state the condition in it, because it's complicated.
Yeah. If you're going to approve it, I think you should definitely restate it in the decision.
Okay.
Great. Did you have anything else? Was there anyone else in the audience who wanted to comment on it? Did you have anything else, or I'll give you? Yeah, hold on.
Yeah, let me say that the issue is for me and some of my other neighbors is the size of the shed, and the fact that it really did look like a garage, and that it seemed to have the driveway going to it. We are in the world of pools. Pools are fine, but it would be nice if we could keep the nature of the neighborhood the same. And the other pool, the other pools have pool sheds, but they're not very big. I mean, they're like this. They're not 15 by 10. I think that's the issue, is the size of the structure. That's the most important thing, because that is not consistent with what the other neighbors have done. And it is a neighborhood, and we'd like to have the neighborhood kind of be the same.
Great. Thank you. All right. Anything else from the board? All right. Nothing else from the audience at this point. Did you have something else, Holly or Leslie? I'm sorry. No.
This is a special permit.
Linda's hold on. It's a special permit, so I do need to activate one, because Linda's the only one who's recused so far. So that puts us at a 4 board. One more will bring us back to 5 parity. So, anyways, God, I don't know who's been up since last. Mr. Callahan? Flip of the coin says, well, I'm going to take you. How's that? Okay, good. All right. So what's the pleasure of the board at the moment?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
And do I hear a second? Motion's made and seconded for discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it unanimously. And what would the board like to do with this?
I'll make a motion to approve this request, this waiver of the setback. The condition, Leslie, that is in the subdivision to be written in our condition regarding the pool house versus the garage.
Okay.
So it explains that. I mean, we can't get into architectural design, so that's not our job to do that. What was the other condition, Barry?
I think the third thing is that you wanted somehow to restate the fact that this has to be a pool.
Right, and that fits into the whole thing.
Right, that it can't be a garage or any such other critter thereof. Does that sound about right?
So we're changing the doors then?
Well, we
hold
can't.
Hold on.
No, I don't think we have the right to just change, architectural design. You? I mean, do we do that? One shut? Screws? I mean, I don't know.
I would
They
do
can
it.
only
I mean,
open
you know,
one?
I think it should be that in addition to words on a piece of paper, that, you know, it ought not to be able to use it as a garage. That's the issue.
All right, design the garage, now I'm saying garage.
Yeah, just
Design the pool
Yeah.
house in a way that it can't be used for an automobile. Is that correct? Is that fair? You can't have nice doors if it fits a car? And where are we going here?
You can reduce it from an 8-foot to a 6-foot, and sure that
Car won't
eliminates
fit
it.
except if it's a...
Yeah.
Yeah, you can also
Smart car.
build with the potential for the future to be a garage, should the residents choose in 10 years or something to allow garages. So you can build it with the opening of an 8-foot or 9-foot, but for the present time, reduce it down to a 6-foot opening. You should be able to get lawnmowers and things like that and equipment there, so you shouldn't limit it
I'm
with
happy
just
with
a
that.
window.
I mean, you can put a kayak in it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, can
There
you
you
put
go.
anything else? Is that allowed? I mean,
I would think so.
yeah, I would think.
I think in taking Steve's consideration about future development,
Yeah, I mean, that's...
you look at that, but if you build it, you know, with the right framework, you can appease everyone. You can take away the garage, you can also plan for the future. So I'd say, without forcing them to put a certain size, just maybe mention that in that.
To reduce the opening
the
to 6
opening.
feet? And then I have just one
Yes.
other question, which is important for the decision. Is it a shed, or is it a cabana,
Pool house.
or is it a shed or a cabana? Because there are definitions in the zoning bylaw that can trip you up when you go to get a building permit, because a shed can't have plumbing. If it's a cabana, you may want to have plumbing.
No plumbing.
No plumbing, okay.
I think you
Open
mentioned
studded
in the restrictions as
stuff,
well.
you know, hang surfboards, put a mower in there.
But pool water pumps are not considered plumbing.
Yes, they are.
All right, so hold on.
Yeah, that's an issue.
Because that's what's going to be in there.
Depends upon who you ask.
Yeah, but it's not potable water, David. We haven't come up with this before. I'm just saying it's not potable water. You don't have to have a license to do it.
Being told by the
He's telling you.
department.
Okay.
Steve, did you have something else you want to contribute
Yeah, I
to
just
this
wanted to
as we're
clarify one
honing?
thing. The applicant has stipulated it's a pool house / shed, so I think that if we're gonna approve it, unless they wanna make a change, that's maybe what we would do it as, because as Leslie points out, I think very correctly, it can jam somebody up at the building department. And then the other thing was, I was just gonna suggest, as opposed to saying, you know, a particular architectural feature is this wide or that wide, is that maybe our condition just say that it cannot be constructed so as to be functional as a garage.
Well, that's kind of what I said before we get
Yeah.
to the width. I mean, I don't want to see them, take one door and bolt it. I mean, I guess we could do that, so it still looks nice. It's just only one door opens. I mean, I don't know. This is weird. I mean, I don't have the answer. So somebody mentioned 6.
All right.
Who mentioned 2 feet off the ground?
Whatever Leslie thinks.
Whoever said that.
So,
earlier.
yeah, can we
Is that
hold
you,
on?
Jeff, that said that?
Can we hold on for 1 sec? Leslie, I think you see what we're struggling
I do.
with here. So, again, from a planning perspective, to fit within the appropriate bylaw, I guess, are we on track, are we off track, or is there somehow a way to craft it into the decision so that intent is well put forward and understood?
I
Sorry to
don't.
put you on the spot.
That's okay. And this is sort of a new angle, I guess, for the board. I don't necessarily think that putting in the 6-foot wide opening is a problem, but I don't think it's a good idea for the board to get into design concepts or having some kind of design
Right. That's
approved or
where I'm struggling.
functionality. I mean, if you're going to go down that route, I would suggest some limitation on the opening, because that does get to your earlier condition about no garages. So there's a relationship there.
So we can
Okay.
say 6 feet
I'm happy with that.
to solve the vehicle issue without getting into all kinds of weird stuff, and then neighbors become the zoning officer. Which
That's
is the
fine.
right thing to do. Okay. That's my motion then, after a half an hour.
Okay, that's okay, though. That's,
Now,
this is,
I do have one question before.
please.
When you, Leslie, when you said there may be an issue because in zoning, things are identified differently, is pool house shed something that we have in zoning?
No, that's why I'm asking the
Yeah,
question.
so
If it's
so we don't want to have, we want to have, it's called something else in the decision, right?
yeah, I mean, I see
That's
this happen
to their advantage.
in the office a lot, where someone identifies something as a cottage cabana. Well, is it a cabana or is it a cottage?
Right.
Or a shed cottage is a shed is a cottage. I've seen that one.
No, sure.
So I just wanted to be clear exactly what it is that your client wants, because you've sort of run the gamut in the application of shed, pool, storage, and house. So it can't be a house. So we should stay away from that terminology.
I'm thinking it should be cabana.
Shed.
Or shed, yeah.
Or
so, Leslie, in your years of experience, what would, short of Mr. Morash coming up with it, which he said full shed, in your eyes, what conforms so that if it comes before the zoning enforcement officer, the building department, whatever, what is the appropriate moniker that you feel should be attached to this?
I think cabana is fine. That's a term that's used in the bylaw. Shed is fine. I mean, the other question is whether or not the board has issues with whether or not it's one or the other, and it kind of sounds like you probably don't. So we can just match the terminology that's in the zoning bylaw.
So, and cabana would be more of a habitable structure in some capacity, whereas a shed is strictly kind of storage, correct?
It may be. I mean, it's not strictly defined.
Okay. You see where I'm
it's subject to some interpretation. So you could place limitations, no bathroom, no kitchenette, if you wanted to make
okay.
sure that it's...
That's why I'm trying to kind of hone this down.
I just built a cabana. It's an uninhabitable dwelling where you can finish it, put a bathroom, laundry in it. We're not doing any of that yet. Sheetrock, insulation, plaster. I'm asking for a shed.
Okay.
A shed it is.
Where it's open-studded garage. There's no insulation. There's no toilet. There's nothing. You just hang surfboards on the walls.
Right.
Okay.
So it sounds like, Leslie, correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like the word shed is appropriate.
Shed.
Okay.
And is the board so inclined to accept that?
Good.
Okay. All right. Good.
That's my motion.
All right.
We're still on the motion.
Yes, we are at this point, but
Please, I hate to, Mr. Chairman, but point of information. Leslie, do you know, I believe a shed cannot have plumbing in it. Isn't that a recent? And if he's going to have pool equipment in there, it's going to have plumbing of.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just so that we don't have to go through this again.
So,
yes, ma'am.
I disagree with that. But
Go ahead.
there are other sheds out there that have pool equipment in them, and we can just clarify that in the decision.
Thank you.
That that's
There you
allowed.
go. Okay. Anything else we need to hammer out here? It's good constructive dialogue. It's fine. Let's try to get it right. We don't see many.
we
of
won't be
these.
doing this for 10 years again.
Yeah, I know that. But that's okay. At least now you get something to fall back to again. Okay. If that's your motion,
I'll
and
second that.
that motion is now
Yeah.
made and seconded, is there further discussion on the issue? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed. I'm going to register as opposed to this because there's a part of me that is not keen on the setback behind this. I understand, but when it comes to, because we've heard time and time again about the whole open space thing, but so that's going to register as a 4-1 vote. Okay, great. Thank you all. Okay. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you, Barry. Oh, my computer went next. The next case is 4417, Jacob Hickman and Jarrett Cohen, trustees of the One Equator Drive Condominium Association. One Equator Drive. This is a condo, I believe, with a covenant house, and you want to go to the second. They're converting all these condo covenant lots into a secondary lot, and that's all it is, right?
Yeah. So we're just cleaning it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything you want to
Representing the applicant, you got anything to add to that?
Is it all right if I try to earn a little money here?
Yeah, you sat here all the time.
We miss you, by the way.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Rick Bodette for the applicants. You're right. This is essentially a special permit to create a secondary lot under the Housing Needs Program. It is currently in the condominium form of ownership. The houses are in separate ownership already. And essentially the use is going to stay exactly the same. Nothing will change on this lot. The only change we're requesting, we have asked for some waivers, and that change is to have a secondary driveway access on Friendship, as you probably can see on the site plan. So we need a waiver for that secondary access that will service the back house. This will allow the two lots to maintain complete privacy.
Yep.
The other waivers that we're asking for is with respect to setbacks between the lots, which is a common waiver request. As you can see, the market rate lot has a shed and a deck that will be in the setback because of those new property lines drawn. So we are asking for that waiver. Okay. The other waiver we're asking for is with respect to ground cover on the secondary lot, the back lot. It's an 8,001 square foot lot. The ground cover requirement at 12.5% is 1,000 square feet. It's at 1038 right now. So we're asking for that waiver as well, just for the rear lot, and of course the entire lot as a whole will always, or the two lots will always have to comply. I did see the staff report, which is asking for some information. The parking spaces, I think, are pretty clear on the back lot. They're not going to really change on the front lot, with the exception of them being eliminated. But we can certainly have Paul put those on the final plan. Same with the proposed driveway dimensions. Those are not on there. And the material and apron for each lot we can mark on there. It'll likely be shell or gravel with an apron of maybe Belgian block is what they're thinking. On each, I think there will have to be one on the original driveway as well. And the staff report mentioned proposed ground cover for each lot. I think we would stick with the ground cover on the back lot. It's over, and all the remaining ground cover would have to be on the front lot.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board? Nothing? Okay. Leslie, is this a public hearing? Is this a public hearing?
It's a public hearing, yeah. It's a special permit.
Right.
Okay, that's what I thought. Any comments from the audience? Seeing none, somebody want to make a motion?
Close public hearing. Second.
Okay, there's been a motion to close the public hearing and a second. Any further discussion on that motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, is there another motion coming?
Make a motion to approve the change from condominium to secondary primary.
Secondary lot,
Yeah.
provided that they put those notations on the plan. Is that part of your motion?
Yes.
Okay, is there a second to that? Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next up, 4517, Daniel Sutherland, Elizabeth Sutherland, modification of ADA Old South Road special permit, which we granted maybe 6 months ago. Representing the applicant, Elizabeth?
Good evening. I'm Elizabeth Sutherland.
Elizabeth, you got to put your mouth right on it.
Right here?
Yeah.
Better?
There you go.
Hi, good evening. I'm Elizabeth Sutherland.
Go ahead.
I guess we're seeking to modify our special permit to add a hoop house in the back right-hand side of our back lot.
All the way back there. So not on the front piece, on the main, the 1 acre back piece.
The 1 acre back piece, that's
Okay.
correct.
Okay.
That's it?
To clarify, Leslie, do you want to do it, or Holly? She has an existing special permit.
Yeah.
that allows a landscaping business on that front, 7,500 square feet in the front.
Yeah.
And it got the little snake going to the back like they all do.
Yeah.
And you want to add a second one in the back
Yes,
next to your house,
yes,
which is on Hinsdale.
on the Hinsdale.
Wow.
And also to add a curb cut onto the Hinsdale Road to control the traffic down the Hinsdale Road and not Egan Lane.
So you want a second curb cut onto Hinsdale?
Yes.
Okay. Holly, Leslie, do you have any comments on this?
I have one comment, not on this particular proposal. I think screening does need to be a little bit more clear. I mean, it shows a line of vegetation. But on the front piece, I know there was some moving around of landscapers on those front properties, not all owned by Sutherland, but the current situation on the front of your lot with the landscaper who is there,
Yes.
it does not meet the special permit plan that was originally approved by the planning board. The hoop house isn't in the location that was approved. I didn't have a chance to really check the dimensions and the size of what's there versus what was approved, but that needs to be addressed.
Okay.
I mean, it's technically a violation of the special permit.
What is your opinion about being able to modify the special permit to allow a second one in the back before the front one is rectified?
Really, I think that the front one needs to be amended to accurately reflect what's going on at the front of the site.
Or made to conform to the original site plan?
Or made to conform to the original site
Which
plan.
would be easy
either
enough.
one.
Okay.
Actually, so I need a new site plan with the size and the position of the placement of that hoop house now. So I need well, there's reasons why we moved it. It was because the trailers, the hoop houses were designated to the front of the lot, but the way the trailers moved in and out of that thin lot, it wasn't possible to keep the hoop houses there. So the hoop house was moved back, and then there was only so far so that all the open storage could be behind the hoop house, and that was walled in with a green wall. So I'm happy to redo the site plan and explain why it was laid out differently. That's fine with me.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
Madam Chairman, through you, so the way to approach that would be to amend this application to amend the special permit relief that was previously granted for the front of the property to reflect what's happening on the site. I mean, I don't necessarily think it's entirely objectionable. It's just not what you approved. And then there needs to be some screening and some other things addressed as well, because it's kind of wide open to the other properties that are up there.
Okay.
Well, the screening has been difficult for two reasons. One, when we had our homeowners association meeting, which was requested the first time I had the special permit, we met as a homeowners association, and it was voted down to put split rail and privet hedge down the full length of the finger lots because there was going to be potential building going on there. So Dave Trost is building something now, and Maura Parsons is building something now. So the neighborhood isn't settled, so nobody wanted fences and privet there. And also there was the whole objection to having these green walls, one after another, locking in all the lots. So it was that kind of screening was voted down. We did put split rail between our lot and the Chittister lot to make sure that the trucks wouldn't wander, because trucks tend to wander. And we put 50% of the screening of that lot line, leaving them the burden of the other 50%, because it really isn't about Old South Road there. That's an inter-neighborhood concern. And then recently, because of the construction on the Trost lot, all the lots flooded because of he took the grade down when they put in the foundation, and then our drain failed, and then it was raining nonstop. So all the lots flooded, just as the new neighbor moved in, and so it looks like a muddy mess now, but it's being corrected, and we just planted screening there now that the weather is better. So I'm happy to have it resurveyed and reapply for the front lot part. That's fine with me.
Well, what we do is we hold this over and amend. Can we do that, Liz? We just amend what's before us and re-advertise it for July.
Yes, I think that's the best approach.
Yeah.
So you just have to go into the office and talk to Catherine, and we'll fix it, and talk to Holly, and they'll fix it, and they'll re-advertise it for July with the modification to the site plan.
So there's a whole new abutters list have to go out and everything?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
They can
again.
still use the same abutters list. It's within 90 days.
Right.
But you don't have to get a new abutters list, but it has to be renoticed.
But while we're here, can we do it both in a way, like, are there recommendations for the back site plan that you can make so that I can do it all at once? I don't want to come fix the front and then you have comments on the back.
No, we're gonna hear it.
Okay.
He means the cost of it.
Yeah, we're gonna hear it.
All right.
Right now, and the neighbors, you have some neighbors here, and I'm sure that you guys want to say something. Sherry, you guys, when you get to it?
I guess it depends on how you.
Okay. But it's going to have to go over to July because it has to be renoticed in order to massage the site plan that was approved for Amy, because it doesn't really apply to Ryan.
Right.
So it'll come back again on July 13th?
I was just looking
No
at the
clue.
calendar, actually.
10th?
Yes, the 10th.
I can't believe I'm talking about
June.
July, but there you go. Okay, so does anybody have any questions, guys? Does anybody have any questions for Elizabeth right now?
Not at the moment.
Steve?
Just comment quickly. HCC, we approved the poop house at the rear, adjacent to the curb cut, just so you're aware.
In the real lot.
Yeah, and the
normal lot.
The primary.
Yeah.
The 1 acre piece?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're aware.
Fine. Okay. Anybody'd like to talk? Do you guys want to say anything, or you got to come down to the thing here and identify yourself for the record?
Mark Chittister, 82 Old South Road. Mark.
You can move the thing.
Yeah.
For taller people.
I guess it just depends on how. Just some clarification on how you're going to handle it. And essentially, I'm just concerned about the screening up front.
In the front lot, the strip.
From the bike path?
The front portion of the lot on Old South Road.
From the bike path itself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had some other concerns, too, but I don't know if they're pertinent at this point.
Well, go ahead.
Oh, just on the back, I just wanted to be sure that there wasn't going to be any driving through on Egan Lane. I think Elizabeth had already addressed that.
No, apparently they're coming out on Hinsdale. They're not
Right.
coming through.
Yep. I don't know if that would need to be stipulated in the conditions or not, but the other concern was any overflow parking on the Hinsdale Road. It doesn't really impact us at all, but it's kind of a future thing. I could see that becoming a big parking lot back there. And the seasonality. The seasonality didn't have any dates, and then the Sunday hours had like dates. I just wondered if there was if the seasonality could be dated. Or it's not a huge concern. I was just more concerned about the Sunday hours, essentially, because our primary residence abuts them, and 7 a.m. start time on Sunday morning seemed a little early.
And that's a highly
I think
mixed
in my
neighborhood.
previous permit, my previous permit, the Sunday hours were restricted to July and August. Just this summer, only because it's typical for landscape companies to run on Sundays during those months only. But it's in my original permit, whatever that was discussed at the time.
Okay, I'm looking for that right here.
And Madam Chairman, between now and the next meeting, we can check on the hours of operation for other businesses that you've approved that are similar in character in that neighborhood.
Yeah, it does say Sunday in July and August only. but it may require us to adjust the start time on a Sunday.
If you wanted to stipulate front or back, I don't know.
Seven's a little early.
Not for normal, not normal.
7 in the front?
On Sundays.
7 in the rear.
The rear.
Yeah.
Sundays.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because they've already got a 7 to
I mean, I
8:30.
guess I'd be concerned about the front too. I do have tenants up there, but I mean, I'm willing to concede that.
You're not up there. You're back there.
Right.
We're going to fix the pork chop spot.
Right.
Those are a nightmare.
It'll happen.
Yeah, sooner than you think, actually.
Place needs a V10. That's what it needs.
Okay.
I mean,
So
I'm
they
fine
can work
with
that
what
out
you
between
said.
now and then, but I think maybe some discussion on Sunday in the back might be effective.
So are we, I just want to make sure that
We're going to continue it and renotice it. to
Elizabeth
add-
understands
to
what
add
we're
the new
doing.
site plan.
Right, I need to know exactly what to put on the site plan, so.
Just check with Leslie and Catherine tomorrow and Holly,
Okay.
because it's pretty much not too different than what I see here, but because I think the actual survey plan that you gave us is what
Andrew hates this.
is correct. Is it not, Leslie? It looks like the hoop house is back towards the easement and the parking is on the other side of it. Is that where we went?
Are you talking about the front or the back?
Front. It looks like the front is...
Yeah, see where the hoop houses were? It just,
That's where she had them. That's where Amy had them, was in towards you, not towards the bike path.
right, but they don't work there for the type of parking.
Right, so
So
they're
they were
forward.
they moved to parking spaces 6 and 7.
Yep.
And that also moved the storage that was up front to the back, and then
Okay.
we're able to make a green wall behind the coop house so that the storage isn't seen from anywhere.
Okay, so that's
rather
what
than
you just
have
have
it
to
there.
get...
So
who
we
is
put
this?
up 7 Leland cypress and about 50 privet hedge there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have Paul, have Bob Emack redo that, just that one page,
Okay.
and show that what's existing. And then that's what they'll renotice that. So go in and talk to the staff, and they'll help you, and they'll figure out how to work this. So are there any other comments?
We're just going to continue, right?
Somebody want to make a
I'll
motion?
make a motion to continue to
Okay.
July 10th.
July 10th, and then go in tomorrow and talk to them.
Okay.
That's going to help you.
Is there
All
a
right.
second to that motion?
All right, thank you.
Okay.
All right.
So there's been a motion made and seconded to continue this and renotice it to include the new site plan for the front part of the lot to July 10th. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you.
And Madam Chairman, just point of
Yep.
information for the applicant. It's important that you come in tomorrow because we have to have the
Deadline.
legal ad for the July meeting to the paper later this week. So we need to
Yeah.
get that information together.
Wow.
And you don't have to get a new site, a butters list. Just go in and deal with it tomorrow because the deadline was actually today. So go in and talk to them.
Oh, that I understand that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you for your time.
All righty. Lucinda Young. Is this the last vacant lot or something?
I think it is. Fairly certain.
Hi.
Good evening, Madam Chair. For the applicants, Robert J. Reed and Jesse M. Brescher, trustees of the APB Realty Trust, attorney John Brescher, Lucinda Young, trustee of the Sturgis Pines Nominee Trust, is the owner. The applicants are under contract to purchase the vacant lot and are requesting special permit relief from this board under bylaw sections 13930A for uses allowed by a special permit under in the RC2 zoning district under section 139.7A. The applicant is looking to effectively put in a contractor shop, light manufacturing, and exterior storage and warehousing, all of which require special permit relief from the planning board. They are proposing an about 1,576 square foot structure to be used as a contractor shop with light manufacturing and the exterior storage and warehousing. It will contain, inside the structure, there will be a 9 by 20 parking space. There are going to be 6 additional parking spaces. There will also be a duplex on the locus, which is allowed by right in the RC2 zoning district, so no relief is requested at this time. The applicants are also requesting minor site plan approval under section 139.23. There was a question from staff about the material of the driveway, and we're proposing crushed stone. And if an apron is necessary, absolutely, we will install one. No problems. One of the applicants, Mr. Reed, is here if there are any questions. If you have any questions for me, please don't hesitate to ask.
I have a question for staff.
Okay.
Leslie, what's our plan here? CTAC, what are we doing here? Just thinking about
Right.
what are we doing in this area? Because isn't it CTAC just before it? What is it?
No, it's all RC2.
Is it all on that side? I
It
thought
is.
We already
And
changed
We have
that.
not changed
We've
it.
Okay.
talked
All
about
right.
CTEC.
Okay.
I think that's probably the best fit. This proposal,
Does it fit it?
without really looking at it closely,
Close.
does fit. I mean, the
Okay.
type of use for the rear structure is consistent.
Yep.
Duplex is allowed. Even though Attorney Brescher is correct that a duplex is allowed in RC2
Yeah, that's
by right and relief's not required, you should include in the decision that construction of a future duplex is permitted without additional relief from the board.
Okay. That's all I care about.
Any other questions? The only question I have is because of the residential nature across from it, because you've got, I believe, Catch-A-Lot and Mashemi or somebody over there. What's across from it? Because this is the last lot.
The last
out.
one on, yeah. on Tacoma
I
Young.
think that's a
And-
little bit closer to Bayberry.
It is closer to Bay Bay, and that's
Yeah.
all really residential. I don't see sufficient screening, and you don't have any driveways off of Tacoma. I don't have a screening plan on your site plan along Tacoma,
Okay.
and that's a big concern for me. Because
Okay.
everybody else out there is on Tom's, on Dooley, on Bayberry, Mashemi, they're all residential. There's no commercial on the other, directly across the street and behind it. So I need a screening plan for Tacoma.
Okay.
Heavy, and not this heavy screening on Tacoma,
Sure.
because that's the very last lot out. And they've done a nice job of screening and planting and stuff in Young's Way, the whole
have,
length.
Yes.
But it's not on the plan.
I
so.
imagine it would be consistent with what else is in.
Yeah,
in
she's
that
done a very good
neighborhood.
job in there, but
Yeah.
there's nothing showing on the plan.
Okay.
That's my only concern. Any other questions from the board?
I'm good with it.
Anybody who'd like to talk about it in the audience? You're just hanging out up there? Okay. Somebody want a motion to
I'll
close?
make a motion to close public hearing.
Okay, is there a second? Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, would somebody like to make a motion, and you want to do heavy vegetated screening on Tacoma as part of your motion through staff?
So moved.
Somebody, is that your motion?
Yes, ma'am.
Madam Chairman?
Yeah.
Could we just clarify what heavy screening means? Do
She
you
means-
want
I don't mean
a
the
Bigger
mix?
squid.
arborvitae.
Like on the corner of Essex. I mean mature screening.
And how,
Like a
what-
mix of evergreen
Mix
and
of evergreen and,
More than just privet.
yeah.
To what width?
I'm not going to that caliper thing again.
No,
I've been there
I
and
meant
done
the
that.
width of the land. Like 10
The whole length of Tacoma before you get, and then not the curve.
How far back from the,
Seems like there's already existing.
in the cell
Oh,
setback?
it's
or-
nothing. There's nothing there. It's shrub.
Yeah, but he
I go down
means
that
to
road all
keep
the
some
time.
of it.
So
Yeah,
where it says
the
existing
shrub
shrub, you don't have to do the corner because that's just not safe.
Yeah.
So just from the lot line down there where the commercial building is up to the duplex,
Yep.
which is, I don't know what that's probably about 100 feet.
And what is it you'd like to see there for vegetation? Evergreens or?
You know, something that's year-round vegetation, vegetated screening. That's something we have to babysit.
Does that help, Leslie?
Yes, and she's a landscaper. She'll know. Okay. Is that part of your motion, whoever made that, Barry?
Yes, I did.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okie dokie. Moving right along. I have so much stuff open.
this
I
is
don't know
just
where
the,
we are now. Nantucket Trust. Is that where I'm going?
No, we're at Chris Lewis time.
Chris Lewis.
Oh, Chris Lewis. There we go.
Well,
Chris Lewis, 8 Flint Road.
For the applicant, Mary Ann Hanley. We're here before you tonight for special permit relief. This is another property out in Coffin's Pit. It's right up against the berm that goes up to Toscana. I don't know if any of you have been out there,
Yeah.
but it's,
Quite a lot.
you know, you look up like this.
Yeah.
and see the wall there. Chris basically wants to build a 1,500 square foot building that'll be a shop with an office space ancillary to the shop, and then 3-bedroom apartment above it. This is under the RC2 zoning because of the zoning freeze. We're looking at zoning in effect in 2007 here. So we need special permit relief under 30A, the use chart. We need a waiver of one of the off-street parking spaces, a waiver of screening, driveways, and off-street loading facilities. So you've got the plan in front of you. There is no off-street loading facility here. It's at the end of the turning circle. So, I mean, any trucks could be easily be able to access the lot without blocking anybody else.
Marion, did you see, I believe, Leslie, Catherine, there were comments from Ed Pesci, particularly about the wall? Because most of the guys in that end they've got the Jersey barrier thing going. The tent does, and Mr. T does, and Billy Trott does, and the other guy does. But he's underneath Toscana. And he was concerned about the wall. I think the grading stabilization. Is that what it was, Holly?
Yeah, it's a grading stabilization. I'm not sure what he means about outdoor bin storage from the abutting parcel because there's nothing that's abutting it.
Is
You're
it
talking
between,
about
it's
the
between the
gravel
two?
stuff, right?
Is it between two of the things that dead end under the Toscana? There's little roads that sort of dead end.
It just
under
dead
Toscana.
ends.
Yeah.
There's nothing there. There's nothing there. But he does need to put a retaining wall in because of the building he's going to put in. And we're happy to, Chris said I'm not going to get engineered plans until I know the planning board's going to give me a special permit. I mean, we could live with something in the decision that says, we'll send the plans over to Ed to take a look at before the building permit issues.
He was concerned about the bins that are up in Toscana, which is right on top of it. Not him and not beside it, but right on where he backs up to Toscana is where they have their gravel bins.
But their bins
Up
are
there.
going to be way up
there.
in the air. There's nothing we can do about those.
Yeah,
they shouldn't have them that close to the edge.
Yeah, he was concerned that if you back up and you start construction and back up too close to the bank, that there may be a stabilization issue with that bank. That's what he was talking about during construction, things like that.
That's why we're going to put the retaining wall in.
Oh, you're Toscana.
They can just throw the gravel over the top. Okay, what else was it? What else, Holly? What else was it besides?
There should be drywalls or some service location.
Right, and what we propose to do, similar with the building that was constructed at 6 Flint, is have 4 downspouts that go into 4 dry wells, which are there now. And then there was another question about vegetative screening on the southern lot line. I'm not sure why anybody has screening there. You don't care, good.
There's no screening in there anyway.
There was this one.
Reviewing the previous ZBA special permit from 2014.
And Madam Chairman, the planning board has completely departed from those ZBA conditions
Yes,
about
we have.
screening
Wonderful.
in this particular area.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me.
That's why we control it. He asked about a loading zone.
That was on the old plan.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Okay, I think that's it.
So I think you just have to put a notation in the something about the drainage, Leslie. It's really the top thing that he's dealing with here.
Yes, we can put a condition in the decision.
Just describe it to them. It's the same as the other one has.
Right, 4 dry wells from the 4 downspouts.
And you're going to do a retaining wall?
Yes.
Is that on?
It's
here?
up against the edge, up against the northerly boundary.
Are you
There
gonna
is
do
a
that
retaining
same
wall.
Jersey barrier thing that everybody else is using?
If the topographical conditions allow it, but this is, I'm not sure the other lots that you're talking
Right.
about are right at the very edge. I mean, this goes straight up.
Well, they're right at the edge of the runway.
Yeah.
So if you haven't been out there for a while, if you look behind them all, they all have 2 stacks, 3 stacks of Jersey barriers back there against the bank that goes up to the runway, the chain link fence up there.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
I don't
about
have a
10
problem
feet.
with the condition that says we'll properly reinforce
Okay.
And Madam Chairman, this
the
is
berm before installing the retaining wall.
abutting the Toscana property.
Right.
Right.
And
Much higher.
the bank is a lot higher.
Yeah.
It's been an issue all along with the subdivision, so we have had an added layer of review for the projects that are abutting that,
Okay.
just to make sure that it's safe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, any other questions from anybody? Stephen?
Yeah, I just want to point out, I think, because I've looked at this, the concept with the stabilization near that wall is there's a surcharge load from having all that extra weight
Up there.
when you're doing construction. So I think what Ed was referring to was making sure that that's properly stabilized during construction so it doesn't all come down on you. If it wasn't there, you wouldn't have to, there's no surcharge load, there's no additional stabilization required. But I presume that that's something that's going to come up out of the building department process in any event. I mean, so nobody's going to go out there and excavate that without looking at the fact that they've got extra load there.
Mm-hmm.
So I just mentioned it as clarification.
Okay. I think that's what Ed was worried about. Any other comments? Is there any comments from the audience? Okay. It's a pleasure.
One thing I wanted to mention, minor site plan review, I don't believe we need that in this subdivision because of the zoning freeze goes back to 2007.
The minor site plan review is part of every application unless it requires major site plan review. So if it's something that wasn't required as part of a special permit, it would be done by the zoning enforcement officer through the building application review process. And we didn't change that in the bylaw. We just sort of reorganized it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we may tweak this. We had that discussion today in the office about it's a little confusing sometimes.
Okay.
All right, so I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion on closing the public hearing? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. What's your pleasure?
Make a motion to approve at this point with the appropriate discussions that we've had.
As to drainage and reinforcement and
add
and
to
the
our
like.
future
Yeah.
plan and all that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, is there a second to Barry's
Second.
motion? Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, any public comment that we haven't already heard? Sarah, you just hanging out? Mike, just hanging out?
I have one thing.
Okay.
I got one thing too afterwards.
Just quickly, a thought I had. A couple times I've noticed that there's one house that got raised on India Street, and it's only a foot. The lot line, place next door, the house is only a foot away from the lot line.
Uh-huh.
Okay? And those people have a 5-foot setback. It's been a big imposition to the people with the 1 foot. And I'm wondering, and this is going to happen lots of times in town.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if there's anything we ought to do or could do in zoning when these houses next door are on the lot line, that we could increase that
355.
Increase that setback.
The ZBA does that if they're going to do it at all. Because if they're coming up in the setback.
Does it meet building code to only have 6 feet in between the buildings?
Grandfather.
Some of them where they're just lifting up the building and putting it down, they're usually okay. But if they're moving the building in any kind of way, they run into separation issues with the building code. So, and we have had that come up.
You can't do anything in zoning?
No.
Okay. Never mind.
We see it everywhere.
I have one thing before you close it.
I was going to say something about Sylvia.
Well, you just took the words
Okay.
right out of my mouth.
I'm not sure the public was aware that a long time member of the planning board and a lot of other organizations, Sylvia Howard, died last week.
Mm-hmm.
I have not been apprised of any service yet. She was
Mid-July.
in North Carolina. She was in North Carolina when it happened. Is it mid-July?
Approximately.
Yeah.
Okay. And probably after our meeting, so we'll let everybody know at our meeting. But she was a great asset to the planning board and served well and served long.
So, could I just...
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I just would ask just for a moment of silence and in your own form of respect, just a moment. Thanks, Ron.
Thank you.
Guys.
We've
that's
lost
important.
two. No, she didn't. You knew it exactly where Sylvia stood.
I'm not waiving that parking.
But it's been a blow because we lost Frank
Yeah.
Spriggs and we've lost Sylvia Howard, and they were major parts of the town government.
Mm-hmm.
So very sad. All right.
Okay, so we
Thank
all
you.
set? Is that it?
Move to adjourn.
We have a
Second?
motion to adjourn at 8:29 in a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.